You are listening to Ranger Talk Thursday with Val, only on WICR, Iona College Radio.
We have a special treat today here on Ranger Talk Thursdays. I'm sitting here with Arda Ocal. Arda is a host of the MSG Hockey Show on MSG Networks and is also an adjunct teacher here at Iona. Thank you for interviewing with me.
Anytime. Thanks for reaching out. I'm glad we were able to sit down and do this interview. You are a student at Iona, correct?
Yes. So you grew up in Canada, the hockey capital of the world.
That's correct. Thank you for referring to it as the hockey capital of the world. I appreciate that.
We
appreciate that, yes.
Definitely is. Was hockey a big part of your life growing up?
100%. I played hockey. Actually, for Rangers fans listening, my hometown team, I played for the Oakville Rangers. Believe it or not. And as the story goes, the gentleman that will have his number retired this season, Vic Hadfield, is actually from my hometown of Oakville, Ontario. So as I understand it, after he completed his career with the Rangers, he came back to Oakville, Ontario, Canada, and he basically grew minor hockey. And that's why the Oakville Minor Hockey League team name is the Rangers. I believe Vic made sure that was the case when he came back, because he had such a great career with the Goal of Game line, of course, with the Rangers. So kind of a cool connection, I guess, for me growing up. Obviously, Oakville is in the shadow of Toronto, a very huge Maple Leafs community. I grew up a hockey fan first, definitely a Leafs fan, especially in the early 90s with the Doug Gilmours and Wendell Clarks and the Kerry Fraser high stick, the Wayne Gretzky. Of course, that's still a big bone of contention. Sure, Kerry Fraser hears it all the time. But yeah, no, I was a hockey fan growing up. I played hockey, loved hockey.
So was Toronto your favorite team?
Growing up, they were my favorite team. But my favorite player, though, was Jeremy Roenick. I loved his play. I loved his interviews. I was also a big video game guy, and he was the best player in the NHL video game series. Yes. So he, by default, became my favorite player. I actually have a Blackhawks jersey because of him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So since you're a Toronto fan, what's your thoughts on John Tavares on Toronto now?
Well, it's very interesting because growing up a Toronto fan, I know how important it is. And actually, there's this series, Puck Talks, that happens in Toronto. It's sort of like just a stage show. And I hosted one of them over the summer. And it was supposed to be just general puck headlines, just like what's happening around the league, etc. And there was already a panel on John Tavares. This was before he signed with the Leafs. So that panel went on for like a good 20 minutes. And I was on with Mike Johnson, who was a former Leaf. He's a broadcaster now. Tyler Dello is a big stats person, worked with the Oilers organization. And Justin Bourne, who works with the Athletics, some great hockey names. Wow. And all anyone in the audience wanted to hear about was, what do you think? Where do you think John Tavares will fit? Where do you think he'll live? Yeah. What do you think he'll eat for breakfast? I heard this whole bagel thing with Long Island. What about if we gave him something Toronto? Just ridiculous, hilarious questions just around Tavares. Even after having heard about Tavares for 25 minutes, it didn't matter. So it's good for the city of Toronto. It definitely is a blow to the Islanders, but I also feel like you can't go wrong with Barry Trotz, and Lou Lamoriello has a history of success. So I feel like that organization is trending in the right direction as well, especially if the new arena comes through and we see some movement there. I really feel like there is optimism there among the Islanders camp. So is it a loss on the short term? Yes. Yeah. Do Islanders fans wish that John Tavares was a sign and trade situation as opposed to a free agent get nothing for him situation? Absolutely. Of course, he is a huge asset, could have brought back a lot of return. And there definitely be some bitterness there. I just saw the game, the homecoming quote unquote game is going to now be at Nassau Coliseum, which I think is even more interesting. I think it might even generate more heat.
I agree.
Right,
Definitely
based on
agree.
Islanders fans. that are going to be at Nassau as opposed to Barclays Center. So that's going to be an interesting game. And
So my show at the radio station is about the New York Rangers. What are your thoughts on
we just spent a bunch of minutes talking about the Islanders. Okay.
I know, right? The total opposite of my direction, but it's okay. What is your thoughts on their rebuild, their whole season of rebuilding?
Well, it really started with that letter, the letter to the fans at the trade deadline. I think it's necessary. I think it's going to be optimistic at the end of things. I think that there's a lot of good pieces there. I think Coach Quinn is a really good addition. I think that there's a lot to be optimistic about. So I've heard both sides of the coin regarding Lundqvist, right? Just the idea of why would you want to be part of a rebuilding team?
Yes.
Lundqvist is one of the best goaltenders of this generation, hasn't won a Stanley Cup, made it to the finals. What about going to a team that can afford you the opportunity while you are potentially in the twilight of your career, right?
Definitely.
So what I like about Lundqvist, Henrik Lundqvist, is that he just seems to love the city of New York.
Yeah.
So you can't fault a guy for that. At some point, maybe people's motivations are not exactly what you might assume them to be. Of course, everyone wants to win the Stanley Cup.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe it's just more important at this point in his life to have a good financial situation, be in a city that he loves, with an organization that he really gets along with, and he has roots here, family, friends. Maybe it's just routine. Maybe he just enjoys being here and doesn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now, will that change? We don't know. Could it change? Possibly. Ray Bourque left the Boston Bruin, right? And which led to one of the best moments ever in terms of hockey, right? Like just the passing of the Stanley Cup Sakic to Bourque, right?
Yeah.
Great. It was one of the most iconic hockey moments ever. So for Lundqvist, could we see him going to another team winning a Stanley Cup? Maybe, but honestly, I'm not really thinking like that. I'm thinking more, what pieces on the New York Rangers impress me? I like Brady Shea. I like him as a defenseman. I think that he, especially last season when we were doing the hockey show, very, very... it was a lot of fun to watch, doing the little things right. He had some speed. He had some body presence. He was really good with the puck. I just liked the way he played.
Yes.
And some of the offensive, like Mika Zibanejad, of course, Matt Zuccarello, Jimmy Vesey. There's like some really good quality players there. I feel that certainly we're going to have a look at some of the younger players, right? Buchnevich, what can he do with a little bit more minutes? Because in the last couple seasons, maybe he was relegated to the fourth line a little bit based on the other players that might have been more prominent in the Rangers organization at the time. But maybe he'll have more looks now. Maybe some players from the Hartford Wolfpack will get a couple more looks here. So this is an opportunity. If you are a young player in this pipeline, you want to be among those who are being looked at in the Rangers organization, because now is an opportunity. You might get a chance. You might get a better look. You might get a spot on the show.
Yeah.
So, and the Devils are going through the same thing too, right? At the start of their season, there were a couple of spots to fill, and there were a lot of young players that were vying for those spots. So, like among the tri-state, among the local teams, there's a lot of young players that are getting looks.
Yeah. The Rangers are definitely trying to find out what gels, like what works with their team. How long do you think a rebuild like this is going to take for them?
See, that's an interesting question. I look at the Sabres, right? Like it's almost like rebuild within rebuild. But then suddenly you get Rasmus Dahlin. And Rasmus Dahlin is a game changer, right? The New Jersey Devils is another one. All of a sudden you get Nico Hischier. And honestly, not many people at the start of the season thought Nico Hischier would last as a number one center on an NHL team for an entire season, which is pretty remarkable considering... How old is the kid? 18 years old, right? And he's playing at an elite level with the MVP of the league, by the way, in Taylor Hall. And he is holding his own as the center of that top line. So how long will the rebuild take? I mean, look, it can be as short as we found a superstar young player that is going to anchor our offense or defense, and suddenly the Rangers are back in contention. Or it could be we're going to find a few pieces over time, and it's going to be a little bit of a struggle, but eventually we're going to get there. The Leafs are a good example, actually, today's Leafs, because there's a lot, like the formula seems to be find as many overachieving young players on entry-level contracts. Because if you paid every player what they are worth today on most rosters, Nico Hischier, Austin Matthews, Rasmus Dahlin still has some proving to do, but like players of that ilk that are still on their rookie contracts, but clearly are contributing way more than $900,000 a year, there's no way that the salary cap would allow that. So that's how these teams are succeeding. They're succeeding by taking advantage is the wrong term, but the situation is if you can find those young players that overachieve while being paid that amount of money, that's how you're going to find value in this league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's gonna, as a Ranger fan, it's tough, but they'll get there. They'll get there eventually.
Well, this year is the celebration of the '94 Stanley Cup. Oh. Yeah, the celebration. It's always nice to see. The one thing I do love about the Rangers organization is the alumni, because I deal with them a lot, and it's always nice to see because they're terrific people. Actually, to be fair, the Alumni Association of the Devils is terrific as well. But like the Rangers crew are always so happy, and it's always nice to see them around the rink, and they're always involved with a whole lot of charities. You know, like the Junior Rangers, like with the Junior Rangers organization, but also Garden of Dreams and all the other charities that they're involved with, and they're always very eager and willing to help. Which is great. It's always nice to have them at events because most of them are extremely personable and like they have great stories and people love seeing them. So that's always a good vibe. Shout out to the Rangers alumni, especially the ones local.
Yeah, that helps build the Ranger community.
And also, if you follow Tom Laidlaw on Instagram, he makes you feel bad about yourself because it makes me feel bad about myself because I don't go to the gym enough. And I look at his Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is like double my size and muscles and I got to go to the gym.
So what brought you to Iona?
I wanted to, I think I enjoy teaching.
Yeah.
I really want to impart knowledge on the next generation. I want to be involved in that. I don't think that I would want to be a full-time professor. I think that I would definitely want it to be on my plate. What I have right now, so I teach every Monday night. It's a third-year master's course. I have a class of 8. They're all extremely good students. They get here before I do. It's like it's incredible. Like I showed up today and half the class is already there just waiting for class to start. It's like this is incredible. Like I know that not every class is going to be like this for the rest of my life. No, it is not. So I'm very blessed to have a terrific group of students who are all eager, and honestly, I relate because once upon a time I was that guy or that person I should say that wanted that job. Right. Yeah. And I felt it's hard not to take things personally when you keep hearing no at the beginning of your career, especially. It doesn't get any easier. Don't get me wrong. But like when you're searching for that job and you keep hearing no and it's the catch-22. Well, I need experience, but how can I get experience and no one's hiring me because I don't have experience. Right. So I want to be able to try and help. At least this is my way of helping at least these 8 students to say, OK, well, here's what I did. And maybe this can help you. You don't have to take my path exactly, but maybe you can take some nuggets of it and use it to your advantage or how you can benefit and win and gain in finding your way. Because not everyone's going to have the same ambitions that I did. But in this industry, the Venn diagram overlaps a lot. Yeah. So hopefully by the end of this class, I'll have given enough knowledge to make it worthwhile, I guess. Hopefully. But I enjoy it a lot. I look forward to it every week. And it's been a blast.
So what's your advice for someone like me who wants to be where you're at in terms of
get out now? I am just kidding. 100% kidding. First of all, pursue the dream. If this is exactly what you want to do, you got the passion, you know you want to do this, pursue it 100%. You're going to regret it when you're 40. If you don't. I'm being completely 100% serious. Number 2, the 2 biggest ways to get attention in the industry, gain respect or gain notoriety, not notoriety, but just attention, is number 1, move to a small market. If you want to be like myself and be an on-air personality, don't be afraid to move if the opportunity presents itself. It is not the only way, especially now with YouTube and social media. You don't have to move, but it is a good way to get experience. And what I mean is, a lot of smaller markets are now utilizing one person. You will be the on-air talent. You will be the camera person. You will be the producer. You will be the editor. You will chase guests, etc. Wow. That is good experience. You can do that on your own. You can start a YouTube channel and you can do all of that. However, what I like the benefit of being at a smaller station is, A, you're getting paid immediately. Even if it's not a good salary, it doesn't matter. You're getting paid. You're a professional. Number two, you have people looking at your work. So there's a group of people that are inherently wanting you to succeed or wanting you to get better because you are on their platform with them as a network. So you have an inherent like group of mentors, so to speak. So that was number one. But number two, if you don't want to move, some people just picked a city, New York, LA, etc., and they just created content, which you can also do because it's never been easier to create content. You can literally use your phone and create content. The thing is, though, when you do that, what I say is pick a lane. I'm not saying stick to the lane. I'm saying the best social media traction comes from whether you're breaking news in a certain silo, sports, politics, whatever it is, or you're creating content that particular segment enjoys. So if you happen to be a baseball humorist, then continue to create humorous baseball content. If you are you draw and you're drawing funny hockey stuff or even just like reenacting highlights in cartoon form, then keep doing it in the hockey space because those people are going to appreciate it. If you keep feeding them good content, they will. Exactly. Think about your 1,000 most passionate fans and cater to those people. If you're in sports, well, maybe I can take it further. What sport? What slant am I taking? Am I being opinion? If I'm opinion, make sure they're strong opinions. Make sure they're well-researched opinions. Make sure that you're always saying, well, what about the other side of the coin, etc. So there's a lot of ways to do it. But my advice is either don't be afraid to move or just create content and make sure that you're always thinking of the end game. Whatever your dream job is, have that in mind and make sure every decision you make is serving that dream.
Wow. That's awesome advice. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for meeting me. This is
absolutely
incredible.
That's it. Oh, I guess I got to go teach a class now.
Yeah. And I have to go to class now.
We'll pick it up another time. We'll do a part two another time.
Definitely.
For sure.
You.
And I won't spill coffee on the table next time. For all your listeners out there, it didn't get on anything. It just was a little minor puddle on the table. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.